Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, celebrity interviews, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
Welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. But for our radio audience here in Mississippi at WYAD 94.1 FM and WYADonline.com, we're glad that you all could be with us. Also, tuning in to our friends in Atlanta, as well as iHeartRadio and Amazon Music Podcast. We're glad you all could be with us as well. Well, as many people are getting ready to ring in the holidays, one thing that can definitely put a damper on it for all of us is retail theft. It's something that's become a national crisis. And for those who are wondering, especially this time of the year, what can be done to help businesses as well as consumers, we're excited to welcome back Neil Bradley to our program today. Neil is the Executive Vice President and Chief Policy Officer for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. We want to talk to Neil not only about how big of a problem retail theft is, but also what can be done about it as well. Neil, thank you again for the time. Really do appreciate it.
Well, Cyrus, thanks for having me on. It's a real pleasure.
Well, this is unfortunately a big topic literally around the country. So, Neil, let's just begin there. How big of an issue has retail theft become nationally, especially as you've kind of seen what's been happening across the country this year?
Yeah, like everyone, we see it on our local news when you turn it on each night. Stores being robbed, smash and grab, increasingly violent crime. We tried to figure out how widespread it was. So one of the things we did at the U.S. Chamber is we went out and surveyed small business retailers across the country. And what we learned was frankly shocking. 56% of small retailers said they've experienced theft in the past year. A majority say it's getting worse. Our good friends at the National Retail Federation looked at it from the other end of larger retailers. What they found was that for every $1 billion in sales, retailers could expect to lose on average $700,000 to theft. And, that's up about 50% as to where it was just a few short years ago. So it's a big problem, and it appears to only be getting worse. And, of course, it's not a victimless crime.
Yeah. And, that's the thing that concerned me when I was prepping for this segment, because I think a lot of times I worked in retail when I first was becoming employed, and I think a lot of times people just think about, okay, well, it's just a store. But talk to our audience about what impact retail theft has on everyone, not just the business, but also those who work there as well as those who shop there.
You're exactly right, Cyrus. So let's start with pocketbook issues. When someone steals something from a store, that cost has to be recovered. And it turns out that you and me and all of our law-abiding listeners here are paying the price. Going back to those small businesses, 46% told us that they've been forced to raise prices in the past year as a result of this increased retail theft. So prices are going up for lots of reasons, but one of them is because of increased theft. It's not just the money, though. I'm joining you from Washington, D.C. today, and just a few blocks from the U.S. Capitol, we have a big train station. And there was a coffee shop in that train station. It actually closed recently because they were concerned that they couldn't keep their employees safe. Think about that for a moment. A couple blocks from the Capitol, coffee shop, concerned it couldn't keep its employees safe. No one who works in retail, or frankly anywhere else, should wake up in the morning and think about their job and just worrying about whether they're going to be harmed by violent criminals coming in trying to steal things. But that's sadly where we are today, and it's why we need to focus on doing something about it.
Yeah. So with that being said, then, Neil, I know that the Chamber looked at this through this survey of small businesses. What does the Chamber think can be done or should be done to help curb this rise in retail theft?
We're calling on three things, and it really takes action at the local level, the state level, and in Congress in Washington, D.C. At the local level, we need prosecutors prosecuting these crimes. However, they need the tools to be able to do that. And, at the state level, over the last 2 decades, we've had about 40 states who've increased the thresholds for what gets prosecuted for theft. So, maybe it used to be $500 and now it's $1,000. Well, what happened is that these criminals aren't dumb. They figured that out. And so what they're doing is they're organizing people to go into stores and steal just under the threshold. We actually have reports of criminals using calculators to make sure they stay under the threshold. But even worse, each store is created as a separate incident. So you can go in and steal $999 from one store and avoid prosecution, and the next day go to another store and do it all over again. So we're calling on states to update their laws, add those two thefts together, and throw the book at the people who are making a business out of stealing from us. Of course, then what happens to all those stolen goods? You know, when I was a kid growing up, if someone was trying to steal something and get rid of it quickly, they might go to a pawn shop and anonymously try to get rid of it. So we passed laws that said pawn shops had to look at the ID of someone who was bringing something in. They had to record their name and their address. So it turned out if that stereo was stolen, the police knew where to go. We need to apply that same common sense to the Internet today to make sure that people who are trying to unload large volumes of goods online anonymously, that the platforms collect their basic information. And the good news is that we actually have bipartisan legislation. You don't hear that very often, but it's true. Bipartisan legislation in Congress to do just that.
Well, that is some good news. We definitely need people to come together for this. So, Neil, where can our audience go to learn more about the problem and the possible solutions that are out there?
Well, Cyrus, I hope folks will go to uschamber.com. That's uschamber.com/retail theft, and you can learn more about the problems and the solutions. And, you know, hey, by the way, we have an election coming up in just a few days. Lots of candidates out talking to voters. You know, make sure you mention this to them. Tell them that, hey, you work for us, and we want you to do something about this.
Neil, it's definitely an important topic. So glad to have you back on to talk to us about it. Again, everyone, Neil Bradley has been our guest, the Executive Vice President and Chief Policy Officer for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, talking with us about the threat, of course, it is retail theft, but also what can be done about it if people will take the action. Neil, again, thank you for the great work you're doing, and looking forward to speaking with you again.
Thanks so much, Cyrus. Have a great day.
You as well. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live, part of our Newsweek and News segment here at WYAD. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live, and let's go make today amazing. Take care.